With the WINN FM News, I am Kevin Brown.
And I am Yolana Weeks.
Our top stories.
Nevis Reformation Party to lead protest and rally against the special sustainability zones.
Alexis Jeffers on continued special sustainable zone legislation debate.
Premier Brantley lauds the swimming program, highlights the importance of water safety.
St. Kitts Nevis hosts two-day workshop on supporting land degradation neutrality. St. Lucia's Deputy Prime Minister to explore legal options in dispute with independent media worker. Grenada's Education Minister says cards, cash and classrooms don't mix in admonishing rise in student gambling. Internationally, Israeli strikes on Yemen aimed to deflect mounting pressure after Qatar attack.
Now, the details.
The opposition party in Nevis, the Nevis Reformation Party NRP, announced the plans to stage a protest and rally at the DR Walwyn Plaza in Charlestown on Friday, September 12, 2025, in response to the government's plan to establish a special sustainability zone on the island and other related matters. The initiative is expected to attract supporters and concerned citizens who believe the move could have far-reaching negative effects on the local economy and the environment. NRP officials and supporters continue to argue that the creation of a special sustainability zone will benefit foreign investors and have questioned the passage of the Special Sustainability Zone Authorization Bill 2025 and its contents. Also of major discussion is land purchase and sale in the designated area. The NRP argues that the government has failed to adequately consult the public about the special sustainability zone. The protest and rally will begin at 3 p.m. on September 12, where the NRP leaders are expected to deliver powerful speeches, including facts about the land issue. The event is a call to action to protect what's ours, according to a flyer posted by the party. Organizers have emphasized that the protest and rally will be peaceful but determined, aiming to send a clear message of resistance to the administration's Special Sustainability Zone policy. NRP paraphernalia will be distributed, and attendees will have an opportunity to meet and greet party representatives and hear the song "A What Coulda Caused This." With tensions mounting, the protest and rally are expected to set the stage for a heated political showdown over the future of the island's economic development. Meanwhile, government officials have defended the Special Sustainability Zone initiative, stating that it will create jobs, attract investment, and boost the island's economy.
The introduction of the Special Sustainable Zone legislation has continued to spark debate, with concerns being voiced about prioritizing investor interests over local citizens' rights, land acquisition issues, and the impact on local communities. The Honorable Alexis Jeffers, in lending his voice to the debate during a recent broadcast of the On Point program, expressed that the developments and initiatives of the Concerned Citizens Movement-led government of the Nevis Island Administration (NIA) have been met with opposition from the main opposition party on Nevis, the Nevis Reformation Party, NRP.
There have been results to show, and as a matter of fact, I will say, you see that police station up there, one of the best in the Caribbean? They have opposed that too. They say all manner of evil about it, but it's one of the best. But I know for sure back in the day, when that old dilapidated station was there with electrical wires hanging out of the wall and conduits leaking water and all kind of mold infestation, I tell you, based on what we have over there, and NRP can oppose as much as they want, is the best station in the Caribbean. They even oppose our non-established workers' pension plan. You're trying to look after people, to provide them with a secure future, let them retire with some dignity, and the NRP is opposing that. Everything we do, they oppose. You bring this special sustainable zone bill, they oppose. As a matter of fact, when we come up with something else tomorrow, they'll still oppose. Yeah? But what I'll say to the Premier of Nevis, the Honorable Mark Brantley, and his team, and all those who are associated with the Concerned Citizens Movement, you must know by now who the NRP party is. And you must know by now who the main players are. And you must know by now that those main players are a bunch of failures, and they've been failures in their life up until this point, and they'll even fail at failure as well too. Because that's all they know, is to oppose.
Some of the projects and initiatives include the Ritz-Carlton Hotel, Mondo Track, Owali Water Taxi Pier, Newcastle Police Station, a pension scheme for non-established workers, the Malcolm Gishard Recreational Park Airport Development, and developments on the south coast of Nevis.
They don't come with anything positive, negatives they come with, and those negatives have caused them to fail in their lifetime. And so I am not too fussed about all of this noise. all I'm saying, if we were to back down and back off of any of these things that I've spoken about that they've opposed, like the water taxi, if we had a back down, there would have been no water taxi facility where 1.3 plus million passengers have passed through that. If we had back down on, let's say, the Mundo track, our children would have still been down there in the park running on grass. And of course, because of that track, we have had some of the best results and in terms of our students going abroad and competing at the highest level, at the collegiate level and other levels as well too, yeah? So at least we know that there are some positive results coming out of that. And so we have not backed down, not even on the Malcolm Gishard Park. They had all kind of things to say. But we're going to continue to fight and continue to build this island as we know that we've been mandated to do. And of course the obstacles will come, but we'll get through, over, around, whatever obstacles there are.
The Honourable Alexis Jeffers, Special Advisor to the Office of the Premier on Investment Matters in the Nevis Island Administration.
The Premier of Nevis, Mark Brantley, expressed pride in the success of Nevis's swimming program, noting the remarkable achievements of local swimmers who continue to make their mark on both the regional and international scenes.
A lot of times people think development happens overnight. And when you announce a program sometimes 5 years ago, 6 years ago, when this program was initiated, some people may look at it and say, oh, well, but look at it now. Young Skylar, Singapore, wearing the flag of St. Kitts and Nevis. Young Jonathan Badales, Essien Badales, Paraguay. And they're not alone, because we had young Mr. Nisbet, who went to the Olympics, being the first ever person from St. Kitts and Nevis to go to an Olympics swimming event. I feel very proud of these young people and very proud of where this program is headed.
During his August 28, 2025 press conference, the Premier said the accomplishments of these athletes serve as a testament to their dedication and the commitment of coaches and supporters who have helped shape their development.
Every single year, we have swim camps, we have swimming in our schools, we bring in professionals, we have trained trainers, so we now have local trainers. And out of that has come now those who want to swim competitively. And so you now have the St. Kitts Nevis Aquatics Federation, and they are now trying to put St. Kitts Nevis on the map for swimming. But guess what? All of the swimmers currently who are showing world promise are from Nevis. And that is a reflection of the fact that Nevis has invested in those programs.
Brantley recalled the tragic Christina disaster, a boating incident that claimed 233 lives on August 1, 1970, sharing that heartbreaking event brought home the reality of how vital it is for everyone in St. Kitts and Nevis to have swimming skills.
When we started the swimming program, an initiative of this government several years ago, the idea really was to teach Nevisians how to swim, because so many Nevisians cannot swim. We all remember the Christina disaster of August 1st, 1970. And I can't speak for others, but I know my mother remonstrated with me daily, do not go to the sea, you will drown. And as a result, a lot of us grew up with a phobia of the sea and could not swim. Many complain that without adequate public pool facilities, they're forced to learn to swim in the ocean with currents and obviously fish there, sharks, and other things that people say that they're afraid of. So there's been a combination of factors, and that Christina disaster has remained very deeply embedded in our psyche. And we decided to break the back of that as a government.
Premier Brantley praised the ongoing swimming program for not only producing competitive athletes, but also promoting water safety among the wider population.
More and more people are now swimming in Nevis for exercise and now for competition. And we have gone even further and introduced a program now where we are teaching safety skills to our boat operators, so that if somebody were to fall overboard, people know what to do. If they were at the beach and somebody were to have difficulty, people know what to do. This is mainstreaming through our population these skill sets so that we can be safe.
The Premier pledged his government's continued support to the swimming program. He expressed optimism that the program will continue to save lives while producing athletes who will proudly represent St. Kitts and Nevis globally.
The government of St. Kitts and Nevis launched the Inception Workshop for the project titled Supporting Land Degradation Neutrality in St. Kitts and Nevis, held at the St. Kitts Marriott Resort on September 9th, 2025. The workshop was organized in partnership with the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, FAO, with financial support from the Global Environment Facility, GEF. The purpose of the initiative is to build resilience to the threats of climate change by strengthening and transforming the Federation's capacity to manage and restore its land resources in a sustainable manner. The workshop is a 2-day series that brings together government officials, representatives from civil society, regional and international experts, and community stakeholders. Minister of Sustainable Development, Environment, Climate Action, and Constituency Empowerment, the Honorable Dr. Joel Clark, said that achieving land degradation neutrality is more than just an environmental ambition. It's about the people who inhabit the land, the food and water supplies that are affected, and the livelihoods being impacted. Quote, I am optimistic about the outcomes of this project and extend sincere appreciation to all stakeholders for the commitment of your time and knowledge, and a special thank you to our global partners, the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations and the Global Environment Facility, for the continued support and willing collaboration of your agencies, end quote. The launch of the workshop marks a significant step toward cultivating land management practices and restoration efforts that are needs-specific, community-focused, and nature-based, in line with the Federation's Sustainable Island State Agenda, according to Dr. Clark.
In regional news,
St. Lucia's Deputy Prime Minister to explore legal options in dispute with independent media worker. HTS News Force reports.
Unfortunately, the tourism minister literally put his hand on my back and pushed me out of the parliament.
Ms. Charles said, I put my hand in the small of her back and pushed her out of Parliament.
A legal challenge may be in motion as Deputy Prime Minister Dr. Ernest Hilaire considers his options in an ongoing dispute with self-proclaimed independent media worker Eldris Charles. The issue stems from an August 19th interaction inside Parliament, where Charles alleges she was pushed out of the building by Dr. Hilaire.
The first thing we need to ask is, and I'm sure all of you remember because all of you were there, the Prime Minister was being interviewed. So she wasn't there interviewing the Prime Minister. She didn't have a mic. She didn't have a cameraman with her, but she was inside Parliament. So why was she inside Parliament?
The situation escalated when Charles filed a formal police report against Dr. Hilaire for assault. According to Hilaire, the matter never warranted what he perceives as an exaggeration of the events.
And if the young lady felt offended by anything I told her, to tell her that she really should not be there because she's there just to provoke people and that she should be outside, or whether she felt offended that I tapped on her back or whatever, I would have apologized. But she didn't choose to do that. She instead made it a political issue. And first of all, she was in there in pursuit of political objectives. She wore a protester's shirt.
On the day of the incident, Tuesday, August 19th, Charles was seen wearing a pink protest shirt aligning with a demonstration organized by the women's arm of the United Workers' Party.
Inside Parliament, not interviewing anybody. So it was political. And of course, she went on and advertised and made a police report saying that I had pushed her out of Parliament and made it a big political issue.
The situation has been further complicated by a surrogate of the opposition, United Workers' Party, UWP, who released what she claims is a video of the incident from an anonymous police source. The video has yet to be independently verified. Moreover, House Speaker Claudius Francis stated last week that police informed him the surveillance footage is still in the chain of custody. For Dr. Hilaire, the matter will now be handled through the appropriate channels.
So we'll deal with it within that space, within the political space and within the legal space. So I'm not going to comment on the video or the clipping. That will be dealt with by the appropriate authorities.
The St. Lucia Labour Party's deputy political leader suggests he is a continuous target of the United Workers' Party, UWP.
Look, the UWP will not rest easy until they come at me and get me. That has been the case since 2015. It's 10 years, 10 years that Alan Shastley has been tortured by my presence in politics. 10 years.
This latest does not surprise me.
It does not surprise me, and there'll be more to come. I live every single day of my life, conscious of the fact that I'm a political target. And I just have to stand in Parliament and look at Alan Shastley and he turns pink. No, it is the reality. So for 10 years, they've been this torture, and it will get worse because the political season has opened.
There are growing concerns that political attacks, mischief, and propaganda may intensify as the political season progresses.
Grenada's education minister says cards, cash, and classrooms don't mix in admonishing rise in student gambling. Grenada Broadcasting Network has that story.
Education Minister David Andrews is speaking out strongly against the rise in student gambling, saying neither he nor his ministry will tolerate such behavior, whether students are in or out of uniform. His comment follows reports on Monday morning of students from 2 St. George School being caught on camera gambling at the Tantine tennis court. The video shows them fleeing the scene after realizing they were being filmed, leaving their cards behind. Non-students were also present, showing off their winnings. Minister Andrews says the problem is not just a school issue, but one rooted deeply in the home and wider community.
The Ministry of Education and me as Minister categorically condemns students' involvement in that activity anytime. In fact, whether in school or out of school, in uniform or not. We categorically condemn that. But I want to point out further that we have a bit of almost a national crisis in that respect. Because we could be saying this as a school community, we could be saying this as a minister, as a principal, as a teacher, we could be saying this in the media, but then in our communities, parents encourage it, adults encourage it, and so it becomes a difficult battle to fight.
He emphasized that protecting students requires more than just school rules or police action.
And it's a raging concern, and through our interventions at the student support services level, through our guidance officers at the school, the counselors at the school, we hope to try to teach those values. We have been trying to do that. In education, we'll continue to do what we can to teach them the right values so that they would understand they need to respect themselves, respect others, respect their uniforms, and respect the fact that there are laws.
The minister revealed that his ministry will be introducing specific measures to confront the issue head-on.
And so while as a Ministry of Education we condemn it, and while as minister, and I'm sure every education official condemns it, and we're not happy about it, we have to recognize it's a widespread societal issue that we have to jointly treat with and deal with. You walk into any community and at any hour in the night, there are little children around a table doing exactly that. And children will do what they live. They will practice what they've been exposed to. So I challenge us as a society generally, parents, adults, people who care about our country, to help us jointly put an end to it.
Minister Andrew has promised that the Ministry of Education will remain firm in its commitment to safeguarding the nation's children. Rena Pierre-Thomas, GBN News.
We now bring you these international reports.
Israeli airstrikes in Yemen have killed at least 9 people. The Houthi group says multiple journalists and civilian bystanders are among those killed in Sana'a. The district was Jauf. It was also targeted. More than 100 people have been injured. The Israeli defense minister says the army struck what it calls Houthi military camps and a media department. It comes 2 weeks after an Israeli strike killed the group's prime minister. Well, joining us now on set is Rob Geist-Pinfold. He is a lecturer in international security at King's College London. We were on earlier talking about this being a distraction in a way, but really, how much of a distraction could it possibly be?
It's as much as a distraction as Israel can manage right now. As I said, the US tried to bury the bad news about this strike yesterday and the fact that it doesn't seem to have achieved its goals with a press conference where they were talking about anything but this. The Israelis are burying bad news in the way that they bury bad news, through military strikes and kinetic military action. There's been all sorts of triumphant rhetoric from Israel after this most recent strike, saying this is the longest that Israeli jets have ever flown to strike a target in the current war, saying they struck terrorist propaganda sites and military recruitment centres and all sorts of things, anything they could really see to strike. So what this looks to me is Israel trying to distract us from the significant international pressure that's now escalating it against it following these attacks on Qatar. We've heard Canada recently come out and say they're reconsidering and reevaluating their ties to Israel after the strike on Qatar. So there is real diplomatic fallout against Israel. And what's worse for Netanyahu is that despite paying those costs, he has nothing to show for it. What we know so far is that these strikes didn't seem to have killed the people whom they were supposed to kill. So this was a huge risk, a huge gamble, and thus far it's not paying off.
Now, the thing is, you've got Gaza on fire, basically. You've got Yemen being attacked. You've got this cloud over Tehran. Let's not forget that Syria's bleeding, Lebanon resisting, and now we have Doha as well. Isn't this just also just showing how Israel can do these things with relative impunity, or in total impunity, if you like? And, dare I say it, just emphasising what we know to be true, but dare to say that with all this, humanity lives under the law of the strongest.
Well, this is very much how people whom I've spoken to in Doha feel like, and I'm sure this is reflected by popular opinion in Doha, feelings of anger, feelings of anxiety, feelings of fear. But that anger is not primarily directed towards Israel, I think it's important to say. It's directed towards the US. It's a feeling that the US threw us under the bus. We have all these security guarantees. We have CENTCOM here. Qatar is not hedging its bets. It's really aligning itself with the US. But when push came to shove, the US didn't come through for them. So if I were the Qataris, I would be going to the Americans now with a long list of stuff that I want, saying it's in your interest to give this to me because of the damage that your regional prestige has taken through this diplomatic And
let's not forget there's something like $1.2 trillion worth of Qatari investment going into the United States too. And that is a carrot for them to basically play ball, the US, one would have thought.
And Trump came here not very long ago, very, very triumphant tour. He said lots of very positive things about Qatar. He said lots of very positive things about Qatar's leaders. And that's what makes this strike so significant and makes it so different. Yes, Israel has launched these so-called decapitation strikes many times before, but this is not Beirut. This is not the Iranian consulate in Damascus. This is Doha. This is Qatar. This is a major US ally, and it's not even some isolated territory of a major US ally. It's in the middle of their capital city, in the middle of the day when children are coming home from school. So this is an enormous and acute sense of anxiety and fear here in Doha, and it's been precipitated not just by Israel's actions, but by the US's inactions. Not only their failure to stop the Israeli attacks, but their failure to condemn it. Those mealy-mouthed statements and equivocation, not just by Trump, but by his press secretary, those words are not going to calm anyone down, not just in Qatar, but in the Gulf and throughout the region.
So, turns out that their major ally could just be a paper tiger in some ways. But do you think, therefore, there's been a sea change, or we're going through that process where this is now taking on different dimensions, this relationship that we have between all the regional allies here in the GCC and Washington?
Yes, that's exactly what we're seeing at the moment, a recalibration. Remember, the GCC countries, they might have been thankful for the US for their help in stopping Iraq during its invasion of Kuwait, but that was a very, very long time ago, OK? You can't count on, you can't bank that forever. You need to actually stand up for your allies, and you need to help them when they are in need. And there's nothing that represents that acute sense of need, that intense need for help than an attack, not just in Doha, but an attack very, very close to CENTCOM. So this is really humiliating for the US. They've shot themselves in the foot here. I remember when the Assad regime collapsed in Syria, we said Russia has lost their prestige as a security umbrella, an alternative to the United States. Now the United States is doing it themselves, undermining themselves by failing to condemn Israel and failing to stop Israel.
Anger is flaring on the streets of France. In Marseille, police fired tear gas at demonstrators. In other cities, pockets of violence as thousands of people protested against the French President Emmanuel Macron and planned budget cuts. These students in Paris say their futures are being stolen.
Yeah, we're all angry. We also, I'm very young and I don't have a job. There's no money for research, for public health, so it's really maddening, and there's a bigger gap between the rich people and people who work.
The demonstrations come after an online call urged people to bring France to a standstill, tapping into growing frustration in the country with rising prices and politicians. Some schools, hospitals and transport services were disrupted. These rail workers voting to go on strike.
The government hasn't listened to us for years. Ever since our fight against the pension reform, we still want scrapped. Their policies for the richest make workers mad, and we want to protest.
The spontaneous nature of this movement and the fact that it was driven by an online social media campaign really is reminiscent of the Yellow Vest movement that rattled President Macron's first term in office. Macron may hope that his new Prime Minister can restore calm and unity to an increasingly politically divided country and Parliament. Former Defence Minister Sébastien Lecornu promised change as he was sworn in.
We will also need to change, be more creative, sometimes more technical, more serious in the way we work with our opposition.
But for demonstrators and Macron's political opponents, Lecornu does not represent a fresh start, but a continuation of the president's policies. He'll need to prove otherwise to survive this crisis or suffer the same fate as his ousted predecessors. Natasha Butler, Al Jazeera, Paris.
The Conservative commentator Charlie Kirk has been shot at an event at a university in Utah, the Utah Valley University. That's according to an NBC News reporter on social media. The spokesperson at the university told NBC News that Kirk was giving a presentation when shots were fired and said that, to the best of our knowledge, he was hit and taken with his security team away from the premises. Now, President Trump has posted about this. This is because Charlie Kirk is a big influencer with young MAGA, has advised the president on how to reach those younger voters and spoken at some of his rallies. So President Trump posting, "We must all pray for Charlie Kirk, who has been shot." He wrote, "A great guy from top to bottom. God bless him." And this from our BBC correspondent Bernd de Busman. As news of the shooting broke, Bernd says he was in the upper press area of the White House, where senior officials such as the press secretary Caroline Leavitt have their offices. He says, "I first learned that the shooting had taken place when a young female staffer gasped and exclaimed, 'Oh my God, Charlie Kirk has been shot,' as I stood outside the office of a senior White House official." It brought more gasps from other nearby White House staff. Now, the staffer got up from her desk, Bernd de Busman reports, still looking at her phone, and then quickly walked out of the area. So that's the sort of reaction this news brought from that White House team, giving you a sense of how important and how well known Charlie Kirk is to them.
A federal judge on Tuesday temporarily blocked Donald Trump from removing Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook. It's an early setback for the White House in an unprecedented legal battle that could upend the central bank's long-held independence. The preliminary ruling found the Trump administration's claims that Cook committed mortgage fraud prior to taking office were likely not sufficient grounds for her removal. Cook denies any wrongdoing, but Trump has ramped up his campaign to gain influence over the US central bank and to get it to lower interest rates. He's already criticised Fed Chair Jerome Powell for the central bank's monetary policy. His campaign raises questions about the Fed's ability to operate free from political meddling. Mark Ben Dyke is Global Managing Editor of Politics, Economics and World News at Reuters and says the impact on the rest of the world would be considerable.
More than half of all global trade is in USD. Almost 2/3 of all global debt is denominated in US dollars. We'd all have to buckle up if the Fed were to lose its independence. You know, we've seen central banks lose their independence, come under the thumb of particularly strong leaders over the years. President Erdogan in Turkey, for instance, where interest rates were being pushed down as inflation was going up and it hit 85%.
Many believe that inflation stays lower when interest rates are set by central bankers who don't have to worry about winning elections. That's true of any central bank, but particularly so for the Fed. The size of the US economy and the importance of the dollar mean for many it's considered the world's central bank. Francesco Canepa is Reuters' senior European economics correspondent.
If the Fed were to yield to Trump's attack, that would set a dangerous example. That would mean that would give ideas to other politicians, and particularly to populists elsewhere, to interfere with their own central bank. And what would that mean? Well, policymakers are worried that that would mean the end of 40 years of central bank independence.
Cook's case will likely end up before the Supreme Court. The White House had no immediate comment on Tuesday, and Trump did not respond to a reporter's question about the ruling. The central bank is expected to deliver a rate cut at its September policy meeting.
You were listening to the WINN FM 98.9 newscast. Our top stories were:
Nevis Reformation Party to lead protest and rally against the special sustainability zones.
Alexis Jeffers on continued special sustainable zone legislation debate.
Premier Brantley Lord's swimming program highlights the importance of water safety.
St. Kitts Nevis hosts 2-day workshop on supporting land degradation neutrality. St. Lucia's Deputy Prime Minister to explore legal options in dispute with independent media worker. Grenada's Education Minister says cards, cash and classrooms don't mix in admonishing rise in student gambling. Internationally, Israeli strikes on Yemen aimed to deflect mounting pressure after Qatar attack.
Thank you for listening.